Growing up in the 1960s and 70s, Canada meant hearing certain phrases over and over. Lines that could end an argument, set a curfew, or remind you that money was tight. These sayings weren't written down in any manual. They were passed from parent to child, echoed across kitchen tables, station wagons, and backyard rinks. Some made you roll your eyes, others made you laugh, and a few you swore you'd never repeat until you became a parent yourself. Let's revisit 15 classic Canadian sayings that defined childhood, shaped manners, and still bring a smile decades later. This was the ultimate conversation ender, deployed by parents across the country whenever a child dared ask, why? One too many times, whether it was bedtime, chores, or refusing a second helping of dessert. Because I said so, shut down all debate with swift, unapologetic authority. There was no appeal, no negotiation, just the unspoken understanding that mom or dad's word was final. Kids would stomp off to their rooms, frustrated and defeated, vowing that when they grew up, they'd never use such a cop-out line. Yet decades later, those same children, now parents themselves, find the phrase slipping out with surprising ease, often followed by a knowing smile. It turns out that sometimes, after a long day of explaining everything from homework to why the sky is blue, because I said so isn't lazy parenting, it's survival. The phrase carries a peculiar nostalgia now, a reminder of simpler times, when authority didn't need justification and dinner table debates ended quickly so everyone could get back to watching hockey night in Canada. This was the curfew that ruled summer evenings and after-school adventures across neighborhoods from Halifax to Vancouver. Parents gave their kids freedom to roam, playing tag in the park, riding bikes down gravel roads, or organizing epic games of road hockey. But everyone knew the rule. When those streetlights flickered to life, it was time to head home. There were no cell phones, no GPS trackers, just trust and a glowing orange signal that dusk had arrived. Kids would glance nervously at the sky as shadows lengthened, knowing they had minutes left before sprinting home, cheeks flushed and knees scraped. For many Canadians, this phrase evokes the taste of freedom, the thrill of unsupervised play, and the comforting rhythm of a childhood where boundaries were clear but generous. Today, it's remembered with bittersweet fondness, a symbol of an era when neighborhoods felt safe, parents trusted communities, and the simple glow of a streetlight marked the end of another perfect summer day, calling children back to warm kitchens and bedtime routines. This exasperated question flew out of parents' mouths the moment a child left the back door wide open, usually in the dead of winter when precious heat was escaping into the frozen Canadian air. It wasn't really a question, it was a scolding wrapped in humor, a reminder that heating bills were no joke, and that common sense meant shutting the door behind you. Kids would hear it shouted from the kitchen as they darted outside to build snow forts or grab their hockey sticks, and they'd sheepishly return to slam the door shut, often earning a follow-up about not slamming it too hard. The phrase has stuck around because it perfectly captures that mix of frustration and affection that defined so many parental reminders. Hearing it now brings back memories of drafty kitchens, the smell of wet wool mittens drying on radiators, and the sound of a parent's voice cutting through the chaos of a busy household. It's a line that makes adults laugh today, especially when they catch themselves saying the exact same thing to their own kids. This rhetorical question was fired off whenever kids left lights blazing in empty rooms, asked for the newest toy they'd seen on TV, or complained that their friends had cooler sneakers. It was a gentle but firm reminder that budgets were tight, resources were limited, and nothing in life came for free. Parents in the 60s and 70s knew the value of $1, and they wanted their children to understand it too, even if it meant hearing groans and seeing eye rolls across the dinner table. The phrase was often delivered with a weary sigh, sometimes while flipping through bills or balancing a checkbook at the kitchen table. Looking back, adults who heard this line now understand the worry and responsibility behind it. They remember their parents working long hours, stretching paychecks, and making sacrifices so the family could get by. Today, when they find themselves muttering the same words to their own children, it's with a deeper appreciation for the lessons their parents were trying to teach. That money matters, waste is foolish, and gratitude goes a long way. This playful insult exploded into Canadian pop culture thanks to Bob and Doug McKenzie, the lovable beer-swilling brothers from SCTV's Great White North sketches in the late 70s. Suddenly, schoolyards across the country echoed with kids calling each other hoser, a term that perfectly blended mockery with affection. It was the kind of insult you could throw at your best friend without starting a real fight, a way to tease someone for being goofy, clumsy, or just plain ridiculous. The word itself had murky origins, possibly tied to hockey players hosing down the ice, but its meaning didn't matter as much as the tone. Cheeky, harmless, and undeniably Canadian kids would mimic Bob and Doug's exaggerated accents, throw in an "eh" for good measure, and dissolve into laughter. Decades later, "Take Off Hoser" remains a nostalgic touchstone, a reminder of lazy Saturday mornings spent watching comedy sketches, quoting favorite lines with siblings, and feeling like you were in on a joke that only Canadians truly understood. It was goofy, it was ours, and it still makes people smile. This enthusiastic exclamation was the ultimate Canadian stamp of approval, a way to express genuine excitement while staying polite and understated. Whether it was a perfectly executed slap shot, a souped-up muscle car cruising down Main Street, or a friend's new hockey stick, "Beauty, eh?" said it all. The phrase combined admiration with that quintessentially Canadian need to check in, inviting agreement, making sure everyone was on the same page. You'd hear it from older brothers showing off their latest find, from dads admiring a neighbor's lawnmower, or from friends reacting to a killer move on the ice. It was casual, warm, and deeply rooted in the everyday language of the 60s and 70s. Today, hearing "beauty, eh?" brings back memories of garage workshops smelling of oil and sawdust, summer afternoons spent tinkering with bikes, and the camaraderie of shared enthusiasm. It's a phrase that encapsulates a simpler time when approval didn't need flowery language, just 2 words and a friendly "eh" to seal the deal. Especially popular in rural Canada, this phrase meant grabbing the car keys, firing up the snowmobile, or hopping on your bike for a joyride with no particular destination in mind. Out for a rip was about freedom, adventure, and the thrill of motion. Whether it was tearing down gravel roads in a pickup truck, racing across frozen lakes on a ski-doo, or just cruising through town to see what was happening. It wasn't about errands or responsibilities. It was pure, aimless fun. Weekends meant piling into a friend's car, windows down, radio blaring, heading nowhere and everywhere at once. In winter, it meant bundling up in snowsuits and taking snowmobiles through trails lined with snow-heavy pines, breath visible in the cold air, adrenaline pumping with every bump and turn. The phrase captures a spirit of spontaneity and youthful energy that defined those decades. Today, "out for a rip" evokes memories of wind in your hair, the roar of an engine, and the simple joy of moving fast with friends by your side. No plans, no worries, just the road ahead and good times rolling. Every young hockey player heard this advice shouted from coaches, dads, and older siblings at backyard rinks and community arenas across Canada. It was a fundamental rule of the game. Keep your stick blade on the ice, stay ready, stay alert, and be prepared to make a play at any moment. But beyond hockey, the phrase became a metaphor for life. Stay focused, stay grounded, and always be ready for what comes next. Kids learned it while skating on frozen ponds, knees wobbling, breath clouding in the frigid air, sticks clattering as they chased pucks until darkness fell. It was drilled into them during early morning practices, repeated until it became second nature. Decades later, adults still hear those words in their heads when facing challenges, a reminder to stay present and engaged. Keep your stick on the ice conjures memories of scraped knees, frozen fingers, the smell of damp hockey equipment, and the pride of finally nailing a wrist shot. It's a phrase that embodies Canadian resilience, teamwork, and the belief that success comes to those who stay ready. This threat echoed through countless station wagons on long family road trips, issued by a frazzled parent in the driver's seat, while siblings squabbled over window seats, pinched each other, or argued about who was touching whom. "Don't make me come back there" was rarely followed through. Logistics alone made it nearly impossible. But the tone carried enough weight to momentarily silence the chaos. Kids knew they were pushing their luck, and the warning served as a final countdown before real consequences arrived. Those road trips were legendary, packed cars heading to cottages, provincial parks, or distant relatives, with no DVD players or tablets to distract restless children. Entertainment meant singing songs, playing I Spy, or simply staring out the window at endless stretches of highway. The threat brings back laughter now, the memory of cramped legs, sticky vinyl seats, the smell of bologna sandwiches, and the inevitable, "Are we there yet?" Hearing it again evokes a time when family vacations were chaotic, uncomfortable, and absolutely unforgettable, held together by a parent's patience and one well-timed warning from the front seat. This old-fashioned reminder to behave properly was trotted out whenever kids were about to visit relatives, attend a family dinner, or sit through a church service. Parents would issue the warning while straightening shirt collars and smoothing down unruly hair, making it clear that polite behavior was non-negotiable. Mind your P's and Q's meant no interrupting adults, no reaching across the table, no fidgeting, and absolutely no sass. For kids, it often meant enduring uncomfortable dress clothes, sitting still for what felt like hours, and answering the same questions from aunts and uncles over and over. But there was usually a silver lining, a promise of dessert, a treat from grandma's candy dish, or permission to play outside once the grown-ups finished their coffee. The phrase itself has murky origins, possibly tied to printing presses or pub tabs, but its meaning was crystal clear. Manners mattered. Today, adults recall "mind your P's and Q's" with a mixture of amusement and respect, remembering stiff Sunday shoes, the weight of watchful eyes, and the sweet reward of a piece of pie for making it through dinner without incident. This rhetorical question was the ultimate parental response when kids insisted that everyone else was allowed to do something, whether it was staying out later, wearing bell-bottoms, growing their hair long, or buying the latest trendy gadget. Parents wielded it to teach a lesson about independence and critical thinking, hoping their children would learn not to blindly follow the crowd. Of course, kids hated hearing it. The logic felt absurd, the comparison extreme, and the frustration of not being allowed to fit in with their peers was very real. Arguments would escalate in living rooms and at kitchen tables, with kids pleading their case and parents holding firm, arms crossed, unmoved by protests. Looking back, adults understand the wisdom behind the question. It was never really about bridges, it was about making smart choices and thinking for yourself. Still, the memory of hearing it stings just a little, a reminder of the times they desperately wanted to blend in, to be like their friends, only to be met with a parent's immovable resolve and one impossible hypothetical scenario. This threat was reserved for the most serious verbal offenses, swearing, talking back, or saying something truly disrespectful. In some households, it wasn't just a threat, it was carried out, with a parent marching the offender to the bathroom sink and applying a dab of ivory or sunlight soap to the tongue. The taste was instant and unforgettable, bitter, salty, and vaguely chemical, with a soapy film that lingered no matter how much you spit or rinsed. Even kids who only heard the threat and never experienced the punishment would wince at the very mention of it, imagining the horror. It was a form of discipline that seems unthinkable today, but in the 60s and 70s, it was considered fair consequence for crossing the line. The memory triggers grimaces even now. Adults recall the sharp sting of shame, the desperate gulp of water afterward, and the lesson learned about watching your words, wash your mouth out with soap, remains etched in memory not just as a punishment, but as a vivid reminder of boundaries, respect, and the unforgettable taste of consequences. This gentle but firm reminder was issued in churches, restaurants, libraries, doctors' waiting rooms, and at the dinner table whenever kids got too loud or excited. Teachers loved it, parents relied on it, and children heard it constantly. Use your inside voice was a polite way of saying pipe down without sounding harsh, a cue to lower the volume and remember where you were. For kids bursting with energy and excitement, it was tough to comply, especially when they had a hilarious joke to share or a dramatic story that demanded full volume. The phrase brings back memories of tiptoeing through quiet spaces, whispering secrets behind cupped hands, and the tension of wanting to laugh out loud but knowing you'd get the look if you did. Adults today recall the squirming discomfort of sitting still in church pews, the challenge of keeping quiet during long family dinners, and the relief of finally being allowed to run outside and shout freely. Use your inside voice was about teaching self-control and social awareness. lessons that stuck long after the shushing stopped. This no-nonsense command was delivered across dinner tables whenever kids complained about peas, Brussels sprouts, overcooked carrots, or any other vegetable that didn't meet their approval. Parents didn't have time for negotiations or explanations about nutrition. Dinner was served and the expectation was simple. Eat what's on your plate, no arguments. Hush up and eat your vegetables emphasized respect for food, gratitude for the meal, and the understanding that mom or dad worked hard to put it there. Kids would sit, arms crossed, staring down their nemesis vegetable, trying every stalling tactic imaginable. Pushing food around, hiding it under mashed potatoes, or sneaking bites to the dog under the table. But more often than not, they'd eventually give in, choking down the dreaded greens to earn dessert or permission to leave the table. Today, the phrase conjures warm memories of crowded family dinners, mismatched chairs, chipped plates, and the comforting chaos of everyone gathered together. It reminds people of a time when meals were communal, manners mattered, and a clean plate was a badge of honor. This patient proverb was deployed whenever kids begged to open presents early, asked repeatedly if dinner was ready, or pressed their noses against the oven door watching cookies bake. Parents used it to teach delayed gratification, a lesson that felt impossible to absorb when excitement was bubbling over and patience was in short supply. Christmas Eve was the ultimate test. Kids lay awake in bed, ears straining for sleigh bells, hearts pounding with anticipation, counting down the endless hours until morning. Birthdays brought similar torture, with wrapped gifts sitting tantalizingly on the counter, off limits until the party began. The phrase was meant to soothe and reassure, but for children, it only made the waiting harder. Yet somehow, it worked. The anticipation made the reward sweeter. The first bite of a warm chocolate chip cookie, the ripping of birthday wrapping paper, the joy of finally unwrapping that longed-for toy. Today, recalling, "Good things come to those who wait," brings back the smell of cookies cooling on wire racks, the glow of Christmas tree lights in a darkened living room, and the lesson that patience, though painful, makes the payoff unforgettable.